Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the debut of the 2016 Johnnie Bobbo Show, episode 1 right here. And you got myself, Keith Grieve of 87sportsfans.com. We're bringing on our buddy Noah to do some work for us. And we also have our guy, Bob Sullivan of No Coast Bias. He's with us. We're going to get things rolling right off the bat here. You know, Charles Hayes, New York Yankee. I know for a fact that you've heard that name before. Third baseman, played for the Giants, Phillies, Yankees, Rockies, Pirates, and Astros. And it's just fantastic to have you on. And Happy New Year and happy anniversary to you, too, right?
Yeah, man. It's been a pretty good day. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I hope we're not interrupting anything.
No, man. You know, after 30 years, what more can you do, I guess? It's actually been a little longer than that. We met in the 10th grade in high school. So.
Oh, wow. No, that's good to hear. You like to hear those stories that, you know, the love stories that actually last. And, you know, there's all sorts of bad things going on with people. You're doing a lot of good stuff. Obviously, you did the things with the Yankees and the rest of your 14-year career. But what you're doing, and you started Big League Baseball Academy, is that correct, in Texas?
Yeah, I actually started it back in 2005, 4 years after I had got out of the game. I wanted to, you know, be involved in the development of our youth kids, and myself and a good friend of mine named Ron Jones started it. He played with me when we were on the Philly, and somehow we wound up living in like the same area, and I happened to be in the grocery store one day, and he was there, and I said, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, man, I live down here." And, you know, we became, you know, we were good friends already, so we started kind of hanging out a little bit, and I would see him at the ballpark, and he was into the travel ball stuff a little sooner than I was, and he would always ask me, and I was like, "Man, I just like being at the house with the kids." And then he eventually convinced me to go out there and try it. And then I went out there and I started liking it. And then he said, "Let's open up a facility." And it's been going ever since. I think we're in our 12th year now.
Oh, wow. No, that's fantastic. And I mean, you know, it's kind of tough these days where it seems like, you know, at least the generation of entitlement, you know, where it's very difficult to kind of get some of the messages through, and it's not as easy for the kids to relate. You know, how is that for you, where you're able to go through there and actually, you know, make a difference with these kids and get your message across to them?
Well, the first thing is that we let everybody know out here that, you know, I'm not going to say what every parent want to hear. I'm gonna teach what I've been taught, and then try to apply the things and get the kids to understand that you don't have to be the best one. You need to be serviceable. We all like to be the guy that's on the Wheaties box, but, you know, the Bo Jacksons and the Derek Jeters of the world, everybody's not going to be like that. And I just try to get the kids to understand that if you learn the proper fundamentals and techniques and mechanics, it's going to, at the end, everybody's going to be good. And if you have those three things, then, you know, you're going to have an opportunity to continue your playing career where, you know, therefore is it high school or college or possibly pro sport. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's strange too. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but you know, the biggest thing I hear where we fight all the time is the parents. Everybody thinks little Johnny's going to be the next, you know, Babe Ruth or Roger Clemens or whoever. And, you know, out here what we tell them is that, hey, listen, we're going to work on the fundamentals and the techniques and the proper mechanic, and we're just going to try to be better each day. And, some kids buy into it. Some parents buy into it. There's a lot who doesn't buy into it. But out at my facility, it's pretty much my way, or I don't even, I just don't deal with them. I spend a lot of time.
Good.
I spend a lot of time a month. I'm doing about 200 hours a month out here at my baseball facility, and we're not very big, like per se, a lot of organizations. But my reasoning behind that is that whenever the kid count to instructor get more than about 10 or 12, then I think it's kind of productive. So we try to keep it pretty small, and we make sure that we put the kids on a program outside of their high school programs. And, I stress a lot to the parents also that just because your kid doesn't make the high school baseball team, that doesn't mean that he can't get drafted or he can't go to college. Because I've had kids out here in my state where we at, Texas, they have 400 or 500 kids go out at a high school for a baseball team. So there's a lot of kids that get left out. Where I come in my baseball academy we call it second chance baseball. So over the years, I've had kids that didn't make their high school baseball team because they went out for pitching and they really wasn't pitchers because their parents wanted them to be pitchers and the coach never see them play infield. So what I do is provide an atmosphere where kids can get better at the fundamentals of the game, and then I invite college coaches and stuff out, and I've been very successful for is putting kids into the Division I college, Division II schools, junior colleges as well. And it's been a win-win for me. I love kids. It helps me. It has helped me with my kids. And I always knew where they were because we had a facility. So, and my kids always loved baseball. So, like the norm for most parents is, the kids have a good time. But for me, my kids have always been in that baseball facility. We call them cage rats.
And that's the truth, especially I still play ball, and we have a couple guys that were drafted on our team, but there's always been a big network of guys. And again, for me, I only played 1 year high school ball, but then still went on and actually did really well in semi-pro. But the thing is, when we're talking kind of about, the differences at the different levels, it always seems that fundamentals are always at the key of it, where it's just everything is more routine. The higher up you go. Would you say that's the truth, or do you think obviously you have to have some sheer talent, but consistent.
To me, I think it kind of evens out as the older you get. But the one thing that's constant is the fundamentals. You got to learn the fundamentals. And I know out here in Texas, when I first moved out here, you could grab 12 kids and go anywhere around the world, whatever Pacific age group, and you were going to come back with the trophy. Well, I think now here we play too much. And what I mean by play too much is that we play more than we train. And the thing that I've always remembered about being around baseball is it always said if you practice the proper way, then you're going to get better. But if you play all the time, how can you get better? And that's what we've got to be careful of out here. I stress at my baseball academy that we do play games, but we train because that's how you become better. I had to explain to my wife one day. She was like, "Hey, we're going to go to Arizona because their team is going to go there," and da-da-da. So we went. He got 2 ground balls. He batted 11 times. He walked 10 of them. The one at bat he got was his first at bat. He hit a home run. So they walked him the rest of the tournament.
Yeah.
I told my wife, I said, we went all the way to Arizona. We spent $3,500 and your kid didn't get better. And she was like, what do you mean? They won the tournament? He hit a home run. I said, but that's the only at bat he got. I said, if we were spent 20 minutes in the cage in the backyard and he'd have took 100 swings, do you think he'd get better taking 100 swings or taking the one swing where he hit the home run? And she was like, oh, I understand what you're saying. So from that standpoint, that's one of my driving points is that, hey, let's take 100 ground balls and then go play a game. Let's take 100 swings and then go play a game. And that's the motto, and that's the thing that I stress at my baseball academy. I've had Mike Jackson out here, Jesse Barfield. We've got quality people here. Alex Bregman, the kid that was in this year's 2015 draft. Chris Herman that plays for the Minnesota Twins. Yeah. So we got a healthy environment at my building, and it's not me all the time. We get all the college kids that go off to the Vanderbilts and the Texas A&M. All those kids come back. We had a great camp this Christmas holidays. We had a great camp, and I pretty much sat back and let all the college kids run it to give them their first chance. And that's what we do out here. We've got a facility where, I give back a lot. And I think the more you give, the more you receive. And I've always believed in that. And, like I said, I've got a bunch of buddies that come down to Tanya Sturts and those guys, and they say, man, you spend a lot of time out here. You must be making a whole lot of money. I said, dude, I cleared $22,000 last year. And he said, well, how do you survive? I said, well, I go out, I use a 501, and I go out and try to solicit money to help kids, the underprivileged kids out here. Because I was one of those kids. I played baseball for 30 some odd years. My parents never were able to buy me a glove or bat. And he was just fortunate enough that it was someone hanging out around the park that took to me and thought I had a chance, and they made sure that I had all the stuff that I needed. And for me, I just can't let that go. And so here we are.
No, that's fantastic.
Charlie, Bob Sullivan here. I'm coaching high school baseball right now, and I've noticed that the more, like, I know you have a business with it, but you feel like athletes are getting too specialized in football, basketball, baseball, hockey, whatever sport it is that they focus.
I remember John Smoltz made a announcement at the Hall of Fame last year. I was actually there when those guys got inducted, and he talked about the kids need to play more sports. Well, I agree with that to a certain extent. I remember John Smoltz and playing high school baseball and playing high school football and playing high school basketball. He was one of the best kids. Here's my question. If I'm 6'6" and I'm in the 7th grade and I'm 6 inches taller than everybody and I'm getting 2 rebounds and 2 points a game, but I can throw 90 miles per hour, but I have trouble fielding ground balls and I have trouble covering the bases. Mm-hmm. Do I continue to play basketball, or do I continue to work at those things in baseball where I might have a future at? I don't have a future in basketball if I'm 6'6" and I'm getting 2 points and 2 rebounds. Mm-hmm. And then I also ask people the question is that, okay, my kid plays football. He's the 4th string quarterback. He's basically a tackle dummy.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think that he's a pretty good baseball player? Wouldn't you think he would be better at playing baseball all the time than being the 4th string quarterback? I understand what those guys are saying about kids need to be open to other sports, but sports have become so competitive that your average kid that's not good at football, why is he out there doing football? For the weight? So I got my kid who's a baseball player lifting weights like a football player. That's counterproductive. John Smoltz, I agree. Yeah, if you're one of the top kids in football, basketball, and baseball, yeah, you should be playing those sports. But if you play one play of football season, or you get in the game for 2 minutes in the entire basketball season, why are you out there? And I think people lose. They lose the perspective of that. I like when those guys talk like that, but hey, let's discuss every detail of why you're saying that. If you're telling a kid that runs an 8 flat that he's going to be a tailback, you're lying to that kid. Why are you prolonging that? You see what I'm saying? So I agree, yeah. It's some athletes out there that needs to play all the sports. But it's some out there that can't play all the sports. And there's people out there that, because ball has came so everybody thinks that this is a 401k that, I've got to work at what I'm going to have a chance to be.
Yep.
It doesn't make sense for me to be 5'5" and I'm playing middle linebacker in football. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, there is something to the cross-training aspect to it, though. If you are, like, okay, maybe if you're 5'5", football is not for you or basketball is not for you, but, I mean, you could find another sport in high school to help, if you're a baseball player as well, you can go do swimming or cross-country or something like that, cross-training, I feel like is a good thing for not only baseball. I just feel like we're at a point where, we're too centralized as too focused on it.
I agree with that. My kid, I had a kid, my middle boy, Tyree Hayes. As a freshman, he started on the varsity basketball team at point guard here in Texas, which is pretty good for basketball.
Yeah.
He got an invite to Converse, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson out in L.A. My boy averaged, as a freshman, he averaged 17 points at point guard and 9 assists. We went to the Converse camp in L.A. He couldn't get the ball past half court. Those were the best kids in the country. Oh. We came back, and the high school coach called me and said, hey, we've had 2 days of basketball practice, and Tyree hasn't been there. And I said, Coach, he's at the school. I don't know why he's not out there. So when he got on that evening, I said, Tyree, what happened? Why you're not in basketball? He said, Dad, I'm not fooling anybody. He said, when I got with the best kids in the country, I couldn't bring the ball across half court. So the coach got mad at me and thought I was the reason why my kid quit basketball because I was a baseball guy. No, I played all 3 sports in high school. I went to a 2A high school. They needed me to play all 3 sports. If you're in a situation like that, I understand that. But I talk to high school coaches all the time, and I think here in Texas, where in an area where I'm at in about a 50-mile radius, there's 55 high schools. But I guarantee you it's one good high school baseball coach.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually when you're playing baseball, the coach that's coaching the JV, he's the offensive line football coach. So how is that going to help my kid?
Yep.
I can understand if your kid is going and playing recreational basketball and all that. Yeah, he can get better that way. But there's no program that has time for kids that can't hold up to where the other kids are at. That's why everything is getting specialized. It's not the kids and the parents making the kids do this. It's just the people that are doing those or running those teams. They don't have time for a kid that's behind.
Yep.
I mean, that's just what it is. I see it every day out here. I got a program out here where we train the entire kid. We've got a weight program. Right now, we're not throwing the baseball. We're doing the plyometrics. That's where the problem comes in at. You get all these people out here that read in a book, and they think they good guys. One thing I got to tell people is this. Experience and knowledge, that's 2 totally different monsters. I can tell a kid because I listen to what Charlie said, but I don't know what Charlie is looking at when he tell a kid that. And that's a lot of that is going on. And that's what's wrong with our baseball. If you look at it, the other countries are taking over because we are going for convenience and we going for what we want people to say. They say what we want to hear. And that's what's hurting the game. It's not that, here in Texas, there's 50 guys here that I know that do baseball every weekend with kids, but they don't have the platform to provide for the kids. Over here, we got the Urban Youth Baseball Academy for the Houston Astros, okay? There's a guy that's running that program that's an athletic director from a high school that never played sports. So how are we gonna have better kids than they have in Dominican? Because in Dominican and Puerto Rico, those are guys that play baseball that are out there. But we for whatever reason, we're not doing that in the States. We got people out there that read a book and because they can talk to a group. Take for instance here, there's a baseball academy here called the Banditos. Okay, they're one of the top select baseball programs in all of youth travel ball. They had 5 18-year-old teams last year. They got 12 kids. They got 12 kids in the college. I had one team. I got 18 kids in the college. You see?
Yeah.
Training, not playing games, training. And I think we got to make a better and a conscious effort to give back and help. Major League Baseball is a $9 billion industry. And I don't understand why there's baseball academies all overseas and everywhere else, but in our own backyard, there's no baseball academy.
Yeah.
That's what's hurting the game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's hurting the game. I can't make 2 + 2 = 5, but I can show a kid how to hit a baseball. And the guy that can make 2 + 2 = 5, those are the guys that are getting a baseball job. And the guy that can teach a kid, he's hanging out in a rundown building like I am and doing everything he can to make a difference. And it's like fighting an uphill battle. And you know, I scream and I preach all the time. And when I see Mr. Joe Torre and everybody else, I try to let everybody know what I'm doing, and I need help doing it. And I'm reaching out to Mr. The guy that's the commissioner of baseball and everything else. And you know, sometimes I think I'm on deaf ear, but I'm gonna continue to try to make a difference in my community because I know the proper way to do it, and I ain't selling wolf tickets to kids and to parents because. For me, the only purpose I'm out there is to try to make it better for everybody else because that's what others did for me. And the money part of it is, you know, it's great if you can get it, but I'm more concerned with helping and giving back than I am the money part of it.
Yeah, and our guy, too, former Yankee Homer Bush, he came out. He actually just took over the role, at least with the Texas Rangers there. Involving, you know, kind of trying to get youth more, you know, use some of that $9 billion. But you had something, Bob. What was that?
With the looking at the, you know, baseball in the inner cities, do you think that, you know, what do you think? Do you think it's just that, you know, baseball is the one sport? Like, I feel like every sport at the high school level, you get provided with shoes in basketball, you get provided with, you know, the pads and cleats in football. Baseball, you pretty much are on your own as far as bat, glove, cleats, hat, all that stuff is pretty much on your own at the high school level, which makes it, you know, far more expensive, you know, not just for people in the inner city, but a lot of people in general. Do you think, obviously Major League Baseball could step up and do more, but do you feel like the high schools are failing these kids as well?
Well, I know out here in Texas is a football state. A high school game out here get 10,000 people a game. And a high school game, it might be 200. So I understand that from that perspective. But I think, me personally, I think if everything went back to club ball, it would be a whole lot better. Because, I mean, in Dominica, they got an academy, and it's all baseball, and they do go to class. But it's a different barometer out here where we're at because of the simple fact that you got so many kids, and they give a lot of stuff, but you pay for a lot of stuff. My youngest boy just graduated out of high school. Okay, He didn't go to high school. He didn't go to high school to learn how to play baseball. He went to high school, okay, to get books. Because I think I can help you and make you good enough in baseball where you can get 50%, but we still got a problem. Where's the other 50% going to come from? So I put my kid in a private school so that he could get the education part of it. He was committed to Tennessee. He wound up going in the first round. Now, saying that, there's a lot of people that are not as fortunate as that. But a lot of people bring it on themselves because they don't pick the right place. I mean, it's easy now. All I got to do is Google a guy. In Googling a guy, that doesn't tell the whole story. So I'm going to do my research as a parent. I'm going to go see if this guy is passionate. I'm going to go see if this guy is, he likes working with kids. I'm going to do all that. But as parents, they're not doing that now. I deal with them. I've been dealing with parents for 12 years. They're going for convenience. They're going for the guy who's going to say what they want to hear. Hey, I learned a lot playing baseball sitting on the bench.
Well, people nowadays, they think their kids should play. Well, you got to crawl before you walk. So how are you going to go play games and you never train? And that's what's failing us. Because parents, I hear parents are moving from one school district to another one so that their kid can play the position that they want to play. Now, I watch a lot of high school baseball, and there's a lot of good kids that come through out here in Texas. Doug Drabeck, Jesse Barfield, Mike Jackson, all those guys' kids are out here. But you would go to a high school baseball game, and 70% of those kids are out of position. They go on to the next level, to college, and that's the problem. It doesn't do me any good to take ground balls when I'm a 6'1" runner and I'm playing shortstop because the team needs me there, because the school is more concerned about winning than the development of the kids. That's what's putting the kids behind.
Right.
Because at this program, I got to win so much, and I've got to do this. And, I mean, I had a kid, I tell you, for instance, named Chris Herman. He caught in the big league for the Minnesota Twins. I think he just got traded at the beginning of his offseason.
He's in
Arizona.
Yeah,
in high school, he played first base.
Mm-hmm.
Because the athletic director's son played the same position he played. You see what I'm saying? And that's where the schools are failing us at. The best kids are not getting to play. I remember 5 years ago, I went with Mike Jackson up to Oklahoma. And there was a kid starting in left field as a freshman, and there was a kid starting in right field. And I was talking to the coach. It was an alumni game. I'm not an alumni. Mike's best friend was, but they were short of people to participate. So we went with him, and we got involved and helped out. But I was talking to the coach, and he was like, can you believe my left fielder and right fielder got 15 at-bats between them in high school? And they were starting at a Division I college, a big-time baseball program. But at their high school, they didn't get to play. So I know the minority kids, that's what's happening. They're not getting the opportunity because they can't get the private lessons. Their parents can't afford this. Their parents can't afford that. So they're getting left out. So they have no other choice but to turn to football and basketball. Because those sports are more conducive and fit into what their parents can afford for them to pay. So that's what's failing us. I think it should be equal for everybody. You know, like I said, man, I don't know what the answer is, but I do know this. Charlie Hayes works his tail off every day. It doesn't matter where that kid's skill set at. If he comes in there and he's willing to work and he's willing to put forth the effort, not only on the field, but off the field, educational-wise, you can always come to my building. But if you're not doing those things, I don't even want you in my building. I got a sign that says, if you when you walk through the door, turn around if you don't put the team first.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what this is about. I'm teaching out here baseball, but I'm also teaching about everyday life. And that's what I tell people about picking situations for their kids. I've seen a lot of kids at 15 years old better than another kid at 15. But I know that kid that has a great work ethic and he's doing all the right things on and off the field, he's going to have an opportunity. There's a college for every kid. That's the thing that I stress to all the parents. More times than not, you're not going to get to go where you want to go. Mm-hmm. And what happens, these kids get spoiled. My kid ain't playing at this high school, so I sell my house and move somewhere else. What are you teaching the kid? And that happens a lot. And that's what's wrong with this ball. I mean, it's just so much, you know, I've been out here, and I'm going to be honest, I learned how to hit in 2005, but I retired in 2001. That's crazy, ain't it?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And you think about all the great players.
I can just go on, but I mean, we've got to provide better opportunities and better situations. I mean, we've got the Houston Baseball Academy here, and it's in an area where at night nobody won't go. Well, how is that benefiting everybody? It's in an area that's that tough to where nobody goes because when it gets dark, it's not safe to be over there. Well, that's what the Houston Astro Baseball Academy is at. So who's getting any good out of that?
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, it's like, you know, I just don't get to that. And we always talk about the kids are our future. Well, we need to do more for them. We just need to do more for them. I can't wait to see how the program's going to turn out up there where Homer's at. I can guarantee you it's going to be a lot better than down here because you got a guy that knows. You got a guy that understands. You got a guy that's in the trenches. He didn't read no book to get where he was. I'm sure that was part of it, but he had experience, trials and tribulations. And that's what we need to get in the game. Willie Randolph can't get a job in baseball. How?
Yeah, that's ridiculous, right? Yeah.
I mean, I don't get
I'm
that.
with you.
So,
well, hey, let me
man,
tell
I
you something,
appreciate
Charlie.
you guys having me on, and I like to have a platform to try to talk and try to teach people. Like you have some parents they don't know.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
tell my parents that don't know, hey, listen, bring your kid, drop him off. If you want to watch. I don't need you coaching from the stands or the bleachers. When your kid get done, ask him, did he learn something? Ask him, did he like it? Ask him, do he want to come back? If he say yeah, bring him back. If he say no, don't bring him back.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how I take it real like that with the people because that's the only way it's going to be. You know, being the best. I tell a story all the time about how I played 14 years in the major league, and I wasn't very good. I was a good team player. I stayed within myself. I learned at an early age that if I try to be somebody that I'm not, I'm going to wind up being nothing. I tell kids I didn't get a hit every at bat. Run on second, no outs. I hit the ball to the right side. Yeah, I hit 260 lifetime, but it kept me in the big league for 14 years. If I didn't move that guy and get him over, I wouldn't have lasted but 6 years. So I try to get people to understand that being number one carries a lot of weight. I remember Barry Bonds, when I played with him, I could walk out the front of the hotel. He had to go down the fire escape. That's part of being number one. That's part of being the greatest. Is your kid ready for that?
Yeah. Yeah, well.
And I tell people that all the time, you know. Sometimes what you wish for, you get.
Yeah.
And then they don't be ready for it. So, it's a fine line with all this stuff out here, but I would like to see Major League Baseball help out. I would like to see them get more and more involved in the inner city. I would like to see them go into the high schools and some of these programs where the JV baseball coach is the football coach. Put another coach in the school that's qualified to help kids. It's going to make our baseball better as a whole.
Right.
And maybe the influx of
yeah, and
I
I feel like they're making some of the right steps out that direction. You know what I mean? But I just appreciate your perspective. And that's great because a lot of times there's dads that don't really know what they're doing. They're stuck and get put into a coaching position.
And I appreciate
hopefully they're listening.
I appreciate every coach that's out there that's doing the best that they can.
Right.
But what gives us a bad name out here is that guy that's getting all the best kids because he's got an unlimited amount of money, and he's saying that he's helping kids, and he's not. I could easily say, I'm Charlie Hayes, New York Yankee, my team is fully sponsored, and I'm going to get every good kid. So now I ain't going to have to teach nobody because all these kids are good. And that's what a lot of people are doing because out here, the more you win, the less harder you have to work to get people or get players. And I don't think getting in situations like that are helping our kids. You got to learn and work every day. Putting the best 11 pitchers on the team and the best 14 position players, and you win 100 games, and then 2 kids get a scholarship and the other 16 don't get nothing. I don't think that's the way to go. And that's what's happening.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, and so, man, but like I said, we can check you out, bigleaguebaseballacademy.com. Check it all out there. Love the stuff that you're doing. We're going to bring you back on another time here so we can talk about some of your fantastic career. And you said it was average, but I don't think so, man. You did a lot of things right.
Well, like I said, man, you got to keep it in perspective. And I always keep it in perspective. Baseball was a dream of mine. I woke up and, I played in the Little League World Series. And a lot of guys don't understand it. It's like, hey, man, I said, man, I worked at baseball to get like that because it was a challenge to me. I was a better basketball player, but I realized that if I played all 3 sports because a bunch of my friends played it, But I understand now with the way ball is, you got to be a little bit specific with what you do because, I mean, think about this. If your kid is lifting football, if your kid is lifting weight in the football program, does that football guy know that that kid is a baseball player?
Right.
Does he know that? So, and that's why I say I sacrifice so much for my kids to put them in the best opportunity that I could because of the simple fact that at the end of the day, if he don't make it or he don't get to college, it ain't going to be because I didn't do everything that I could do to help my kids. And I don't think a lot of people understand that the decisions that you make early on in your kid's career about where he's at and who he's with dictate what he turn into later on in life.
Yeah. No, and unfortunately, man, we ran out of time here. But God bless you. I'm telling you that is some fantastic stuff. At least, like I said, it's a completely different perspective. You know, where at least you're throwing out that view, and I love it, man. Because I'm with you. 100%.
I like to keep it. So, I like to keep it real, sir.
Yeah,
and
like
I said, I'm out at Big League Baseball Academy, and he's competitive. And then we do everything we can. We take kids in from other states. I'll hopefully get a hotel. They got this new app out called UP17. It's going to be guys, myself, Dale Murphy. We're going to all do this stuff and give the money to charities and just try to help kids all around the country. It's going to be an app where you go into that app.
Really?
You look, you can video your kid and you can send that stuff in to us and we'll view it. Whichever instructor that you pick, we've got, I think it's 12 or 15 major league guys and their study admin guys. I just got on the board. And I'm going to give my money that people sign up to me into Charity Pinstripe Dreams Foundation and try to help people. I mean, I'm sitting at my facility at 3 o'clock in the evening and somebody sends me a video and they want me to try to help their kid. And it is expensive enough where I can do that. I'm going to try to do it because I want to make a difference. I want to play the game better than it was when I got to it. I want to make it better.
Yeah.
So that's
what we're here for. So we're all working on that. But like I said, man, we love you, Charlie. Thank you so much for coming on, and we're gonna send everybody your way, man, because obviously you got a lot of good stuff. So thank you so much.
Okay, man, y'all take it easy. Thanks for having me.
Night,
I better get home now and see how the anniversary stuff's going on.
Yeah. Go take care of that wife here right now.
My wife knows I love baseball, so.
Yeah, well, tell her thank you so much for borrowing us for a little bit here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm actually sitting in the driveway right now. And I see the light on, so I better get in here, guys. But hey, man, I appreciate you guys having me. I hope I don't talk too much, but
you're great.
I'm so excited about talking about baseball, and especially talking about it at the youth level.
You got it.
I think there's a lot of information out there, but we've got to put the right information out there, and
right.
I understand being politically correct, but I sometimes I just got to throw that out the window and do what's right.
Yep, I got you. Well, thank you so much, Charlie.
All right, man.
All right, you have a great night, all right? Take care. We'll be spreading your news. All right, so that was Charles Hayes, former Major League Baseball player of 14 seasons, 96 World Series champion, doing stuff. But what we're going to do right now, we're going to be super classy because it's the first show of the year, and we're just going to call our next guest live on air. Let's get Mr. Mark Grote up in on this biznatch. Yeah, because I was totally going. I was about to go Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? Like, because Charlie played with so many great players. You know what I mean? And now with Sam Sosa, he's pretty much on his last leg here. It doesn't seem like. That he's going to get in ever at any point. But the biggest thing for me is that we have Mark Grote on the phone right now. Mark Grote, how are you, sir?
How'd you know my middle name? That's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I figured you're so great
Mark
with
Damn Grote.
Because you kill it. You are the Chicago Cubs pre and post game host, right there on 670 The Score, and more importantly, Bob Sullivan man crush.
Yeah. Grote, nobody ever called you Mark U. Grote.
Oh, no, never.
U was never a middle name for you, was it?
Mark U. Grote?
Like, ew, gross. Like, ew, Grote.
Oh yeah, Mark. Oh yeah. No, I used to get that like Grote to the max when I was in junior high. Yeah.
Really?
Grote.
But no, honest to God, I mean, I don't think there's anybody that's ever not enjoyed your company. Is that a fact?
Well, here's what I would say about that. I will admit that I'm self-aware enough so that I'm a relatively affable guy and people do like me. But here's the thing, that when you have ex-girlfriends in life, that means that there's always going to be somebody that doesn't like you, right?
Oh yeah.
So I do have ex-girlfriends, but actually I get along pretty good with my ex-girlfriends too.
Because you're that guy. But speaking of ex-girlfriends, you know, we're about to get to the Hall of Fame talk with Charles Hayes there of the Yankees, because man, he played with so many great players. You know, at least in terms of, you know, Derek Jeter and like some of these other guys that aren't making it, like Darryl Strawberry.
That was the only player he played with.
Him, Dwight Gooden, Andy Pettit, David Cohn. Also played with Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and Tim Raines. But the guy that I'm going to ask you about, ex-girlfriend Sammy Sosa with the Cubs. I mean, it doesn't look like he's going to make it into the Hall of Fame. What is your opinion on the Cubs welcoming him back to at least their organization?
I'm glad you asked that question. I was just out to dinner with some friends who also happen to be in the business, and that topic came up. I have a pretty passionate opinion on it for the first time in, you know, since the topic has come up with Sammy Sosa and whether or not he is embraced again, whether or not he goes to the Hall of Fame. My thought is, look, if you're going to start to give some of these other guys more votes that are under the blanket of suspicion, who we practically know have done it, like Barry Bonds and Piazza and whomever, if you're going to start to either put these guys in or give them more votes, to me it's kind of a disgrace that Sosa only has 7% of the vote. So you better start to, these same guys that were indignant about Bonds and Clemens and who are starting to gain a little bit more, that if you're going to put those guys in, it's an outrage to me that Sammy Sosa wouldn't have a higher vote count. And I'm just as mad at Sammy as anybody that he's done what he's done. I thought he's a fraud, and what he did when he left the Cubs in '04 was an outrage and ridiculous and all that stuff. But if you're going to give these other guys votes, to me it's an embarrassment that Sammy Sosa hasn't gotten more of a percentage.
I will say this.
Yeah. You were saying about?
With the Sosa thing. Yeah, I think with the Sosa thing, if we're going to, I think it's more perceived. Is it true? Who knows? But I think it's more perceived that his numbers were 100% artificially enhanced. Whether that can be proven with Bonds or Clemens, how much of their careers were artificially enhanced, or Piazza or whatever. But I feel like that's the reason Sosa's are so low, because the people who are voting, my guess is they think that 100% of his numbers were a direct result of taking steroids.
Yeah, that came up in our conversation tonight, and there is, I guess, Barry Bonds is probably the best example of a guy who had a long career, we think, presumably, without any kind of artificial enhancers. We all remember skinny Barry Bonds, who could play the outfield really well and he was a body-tool player when he was skinny, when he was sort of like Darryl Strawberry, skinny muscle kind of thing. So,
right.
There's true there was that time, but I'm sorry, and you're right. I get it. Like, maybe Sammy Sosa's numbers were all artificially enhanced, but that's just projecting or predicting. Nobody knows that, and quite frankly, if Barry Bonds, he probably would have taken steroids then. Even if he, we all assume he didn't, but nobody knows for sure when Bonds or any of these guys started taking steroids. So my attitude is, if you're going to start putting guys in that played in the steroids era, I get it. The numbers are ridiculous. Bonds put up ridiculous numbers, and so did Sosa. But I just don't think at this point you can avoid those. Like if Sosa was hitting 35, 40 home runs, every year for a while, And then I was like, okay, well, maybe not. But the guy was putting up 60 homers a year for a while,
Yeah.
I mean, and I get that where that might come from, but
he had like 3 60 home run seasons in a row or something like that.
yeah. So I mean, even on
50
steroids, that can't be denied. I don't think anymore.
Right. Yeah. No. And I mean, and there's a bunch of guys like that. With at least Bonds and like Clemens. Look at him now. I mean, you can't really necessarily say who all. You know what I mean? Got
Right.
and who did use. And I mean, how are you going to go on judging that? Are you do it based off body type? I had a bunch of people that were complaining about the writers that are in there and making these decisions. But I mean, you did see some progress, at least with a guy like Mike Piazza. You saw him got in, even though he was everybody was suspicious about him. It looks like Bagwell will maybe get his chance next year. I'm hoping to God that Tim the Rock Reigns, makes his way into the Hall of Fame. And I even think, honestly, Mike Mussina deserves it as well. You know what I mean? Because people don't consider the fact when they look at his overall numbers, the fact that he's got, a 3.6 ERA, throughout his career, but in 11 of his 18 seasons, okay, his ERA was below the league average. However, he was playing in this PED era. You know what I mean? It was incredibly productive. Just because his ERA was up there, I don't think matters as much. I mean, the guy was still a winner. Especially when you consider everything else that was going on.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I mean, I remember thinking about him last year as well in terms of that. And I know that you're not the only one who feels that way. Well, you've seen it. I think that's kind of like the interesting part about the Hall of Fame now is what we're all doing right now. It gets analyzed to death, and there's so many different numbers to look at now with with the advanced metrics, right? Like you can, it's what you're doing right now. There's a lot of guys who you would have thought were borderline Hall of Famers who you can just put them under the numbers microscope and make a case for that guy.
Right. And
whoever it is.
Yeah. But I okay. Well, how about this though? I mean, sorry, Bob, I'll keep cutting you off here, but I just got to thinking, Ken Griffey, he set a new record, at least in terms of the highest percentage after they went through and weeded out a bunch of the writers, that were, filling out empty, blank ballots and everything else. Greg Maddux, he wasn't unanimous. Is there any hope for a guy like, maybe either Derek Jeter or, I mean, honestly, you don't think Jeter's going to happen? That was Bob, right?
I certainly don't. I don't think he should be.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I mean,
if Griffey's not, if Maddux isn't, Derek Jeter definitely is not.
I'll be mad if Jeter does, because then it'll be like the New York bias, that's when East Coast New York bias is. You know what I mean? That's when it's legitimate, because usually I sort of poo-poo that concept because it makes us look bad in the Midwest, like we're getting mad at the big boys and stuff like that. It makes us look stupid when we talk about the East Coast bias. But I think that if Jeter was to go in unanimously over Ken Griffey Jr. and Greg Maddux, that would be an absolute joke.
Oh yeah, no.
Grote, you look at I think it's complete bull crap that in this we're talking more. The Hall of Fame is no longer about the players; it is about the writers, and that is why I think we need to completely strip everybody away of their votes. And I don't know who gets to vote on it, but vote on who gets to vote, because it's ridiculous. Like what Dan Le Batard did, he got a fair amount of crap for what he did, turn his ballot over to Deadspin. But he was trying to prove a point, and his point was right, in my opinion. And I just don't think, okay, if you're going to not vote for guys that took steroids, then what about the writer who was, who outed Mark McGwire for having Andro in his locker, and he was cast off as some kind of leper?
Right.
If that guy is cast off, then if you're going to cast him off as a writer or a journalist, then you shouldn't be allowed to vote in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's getting pretty complicated because I think it's all part of the era of social media and the attention that we in the media get for being for taking things to sort of a ludicrous extent and doing it on purposely. And kind of doing it for attention. And I mean, it's just that's the job of anybody who does things for an opinion, a columnist, a sports talk show host. You're going to get a lot of attention for that. So, Bob, you're right, because then it just, like, of course, you're allowed to have bias and discretion in voting, because that's what it's all about, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it is your opinion, but there should be a lot more math involved too. You know what I mean? Like anybody who did not vote for Greg Maddux or Ken Griffey Jr. to be in the Hall of Fame, you know, that
the hell's wrong with
you are. It's like you are exactly wrong. You know what I mean? There's no opinion there.
Yeah.
You're wrong.
Well, I don't understand. Okay, if we take, you know, looking at the Hall of Fame, the voters, you know, these guys are quote unquote journalists. Isn't part of journalism to not become a part of the story? And they're making themselves a part of the story by not voting for these guys. So
you said it better than I could have said it. That's right. They are part of the story, Bob. You're right.
These guys are pathetic. Howard Bryant, every single one of them is pathetic. I hate, I hate what it has become with baseball, where it's like, you know, we can't even have. I mean, are we going to get to a point where in football we're not going to, you know, they're not going to not vote for Peyton Manning for the Hall of Fame because of its alleged HGH use? I know, but we got to get past the steroid era, and if you're going to vote for some, you got to vote for all. You can't just pick and choose.
Right. I mean, there's really no way of telling. But I mean, how about this, Mark Grote? We're talking again, Mark Grote at Mark Grote Sports, pre- and post-game host for the Chicago Cubs on now WSCR 670 The Score. You know, one of the biggest things I think is kind of maybe the corner outfield situation, and then having a guy like Jason Hayward. We talked about him last time we spoke about, you know, now he's going to be playing center field. That was the night before he signed the big deal and chose the Cubs. You know, what are they going to do here? Are they looking to maybe find a guy like, I mean, Dexter Fowler, you know, he's still out there. And you just saw Denard Span, he signed tonight, I believe, with the Giants. You know, are they still like on the market, you know, looking for that center fielder and maybe trying to do something with, I mean, you have Soler and then right, and you have, you know, Schwarber and left, and, you know, kind of some kind of platoon thing going on there. But, you know, are they going to try to solidify one of those corner outfield spots? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I keep thinking that something's going to happen because
you got that feeling?
I do. Just like I guess I have that feeling, like not of a signing is inevitable, as much as I have the feeling that can you really go to war with that outfield? And I realize that it's not as hard to play outfield as to play infield. But one of the things that Joe Madden boasts throughout the whole year is, and he always liked to, he phrased it like this. He would say, I don't like good defense. I love good defense. That he was always like quick to say. And if you look at that outfield, that's I don't think you could say that's a good outfield. You know what I mean? That's not the word you would use to describe what the Cubs have in the outfield right now. You know, Soler. I mean, Soler and Schwarber are still learning those positions. They're still developing, and maybe they could develop into good outfielders. And then Jason Hayward is out of position in center field. So I don't know. I would call it a conundrum because I still think that, you know, I mean, the odd man out of that group obviously is Jorge Soler. And like I keep saying about Soler, that I do see him as expendable and as somebody possibly the Cubs would trade. However, I still think it is possible that you can't rule out the possibility that Jorge Soler could still be a superstar in Major League Baseball. You know what I mean? Like he's not past the point of you know, he's not what he is yet. You know what I mean? He might be a superstar. I don't know.
Yeah, and
I'm 100% with you on that one, Grote. Like I feel like he's probably the odd man out right now, but I feel like he also there's the most to lose upside wise. Well, I guess other than Hayward, but between him and Schwarber, I feel like there's the most to lose upside wise getting rid of him. But you might get quite a bit in return as well for him.
But I mean, honestly, probably the biggest guy that's odd man out in that whole Cubs situation is Javier Baez. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, it was a fantastic point by Mark. I mean, when you look at Soler, I mean, still a young buck. You know what I mean? So he's got a chance to come back around. And it's probably gonna be the same thing with Baez. But Baez, he's really the guy that there's not really a position for him around there in the infield, especially with Zobrist there now. Even though Zobrist is going to bounce around a little bit, I'm sure. But they're going to probably try to keep him at second base now. I would imagine at 34 years old. But what does that mean for Baez? Do you think they're going to Madden's going to work his magic and try to turn him into an outfielder too, and kind of play him a little bit more out there this season than in the infield?
I think that Javier Baez is going to start the season on the bench as he'll be a super utility guy that I think he's going to get a lot of playing time. I think he will be Joe Madden's, quite frankly, his Ben Zobrist from the Tampa Bay days,
right?
Where I think he will get some. I promise you, he won't be afraid to put him in the outfield. I mean, we saw friggin' Chris Bryant play center field.
He looked all right.
Yeah, he looked fine, and we saw Chris Coughlin move to the outfield, infield. So, trust me, putting Javier Baez in the outfield is not a crazy idea. And I don't know if I've told you guys this before, but I remember having a conversation with Javier Baez, just a one-on-one chat with him by his locker, and we were talking about all the infield positions he plays and how talented he is at playing infield. And so I asked him, well, what's your favorite position on the infield? And he said, my favorite position to play is center field. So Baez loves the outfield. But then I took that to Madden, and I said, Baez is his favorite position is center field. Could you see, and this is last year, mind you, could you see a scenario where he played the outfield? And he said, and his words to me were, look, a guy like that belongs on the dirt, as in he belongs as an infielder.
Right.
So while they might throw him in the outfield, I don't think it's realistic to think of him as an everyday outfielder.
Yeah, but okay, so how about this now? I think probably maybe one of the other things that a lot of people were kind of questioning was the whole, and we talked about this before, but the middle relief situation. I mean, you're going to trust Rondon, as far as you can right now as a closer. Strop is still there, but they did a lot of work, at least in terms of bringing in guys like traded for Rex Brothers. They brought in Edgar Olmos twice, claimed him off of waivers after having to release him because of a number situation. They traded for Spencer Patton. They had a guy like Gene Machi who's been around and has been familiar with the whole Boston situation. Scott Barnes, another guy. I mean, I feel like they're adding a lot of arms. As focused as they were on starting pitching, because we're still not sure who that fifth starter is just yet. But bringing back Trevor Cahill, I mean, they did quite a few things to upgrade that middle relief situation. I know a lot of people were concerned about it, and obviously the Cubs were too. What do you think with what Jed and Theo have done to this point?
Yeah, no, and Adam Warren too is another name I don't think you mentioned, who was part of the Starlin Castro trade with the Yankees. So,
you figure he's in the rotation,
What's that?
He'll probably be in the rotation, don't you think?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, because you're not sure about Jason Hamill and Kyle Hendricks, but I didn't see Warren much, so I don't know. I haven't done the eye test with him, but it is. Right. I mean, it looks like he had a bunch of starts last year, out of the bullpen quite a bit as well. So I don't know if I trust him as a starter, but he definitely has depth, right? I mean, in terms of that starting rotation, which they were without last year. But just to comment on what you're saying about all the other names you mentioned, I mean, it's pretty obvious that their plan was to just stockpile that bullpen, because that's in this day and age, you don't spend a lot of money on bullpen arms, and instead you stockpile, you see what works, you put it in there, you use it up, you throw it out, you bring. What they do all last year, that's the way you build it, right? You cut guys, you bring guys in, you try. Who's this guy? Medina from last year. Just you never know who's. I mean, even Trevor Cahill. Where the hell did he go? Trevor Cahill's on the Cubs. Okay. We remember him from Oakland. It's so.
He got waived by the Braves last year before the Cubs picked him up.
Yeah, that's right. He was with the Braves, exactly.
Yeah,
so that's life in the bullpen. Stockpile and move them in, move them out, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think one of the biggest benefits they have, before we let you go here, Mark, is just having a guy like Chris Bosio around. You know what I mean? He is the new Don Cooper in Chicago. Because I feel like Don Cooper maybe he hasn't lost it yet. Yeah, I guess maybe lost some luster because he was so great at it and was turning so many guys around. But I really feel like Bosio's been able to get through to a lot of these pitchers. And I mean, I would think the prime example. I mean, you look at Jake Arrieta. What he did with that guy. I mean, he was a number one pick, and that was something that the Cubs did, especially last year, with guys like Jacob Turner, where they stockpiled these former number one draft picks. Other teams had given up on to the point where they became a part of the numbers game, and they became a waiver claim. And they brought these guys in, saw what they can work with, and I thought Bosio brought a lot of those guys back, and I think there's a good chance he might be able to do that with some of these guys in the bullpen.
Yeah, no, you're right about Bosio. I mean, he's definitely had. I mean, I think that he's the guy that you mentioned, Jake Arrieta. I mean, he's the guy who is probably given the most credit for the turnaround and just letting Jake be Jake. Even if it means that his arm wears out faster than it should, you're going to get some. Oh, you've had 2 really quality years out of the guy to begin with, not counting the first part of his tenure with the Cubs. But yeah, I mean, it becomes a numbers game and stockpiling, and you're not going to hit with every single pitcher. Bosio's going to have some failures on his watch too, but he's gonna get a lot of credit for the guys that he turns around too.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, Mark, are you back in writing yet? I mean, baseball season's not that far away. You have the Cubs convention coming up, correct?
Yes, so I think that'll be like the first step to it. I mean, we all got together with the Cubs Village for the Jason Hayward signing recently. And, next weekend it'll be a fun, crazy Cubs weekend at the Sheridan downtown. So, yeah, that'll get in the mood. But it'll be funny because then there's the Cubs convention, and then there's another 2 months for baseball. So it's kind of like it maxes out. Then it's like, well, no baseball yet,
Yeah. And the Sox, I know they have theirs at the end of the month, at the end of January and kind of leading into February. So that's always like, okay, well, now you only have a few weeks. It cuts it back a little bit, so it's not as harsh. But thanks so much. I mean, like I said, I know you're having a great time tonight. You made some time for us, and really appreciate you coming on, Mark.
Yeah, John, thanks for having me on. And Bob, didn't you just celebrate a birthday, man, or was it your anniversary?
It was my show's 4-year birthday party.
Your 4-year birthday for the show. Well, I have to apologize again for not being on. I actually literally lost my voice to the point where I couldn't even. I had to actually call into work. I had legitimate laryngitis, and my voice is not even perfect at this very moment. So I am sorry that I missed. I was sad that I could not share that. And I was very flattered that you would actually have asked to have me on for the anniversary of your show. So thank you, and sorry all at the same time, my friend.
Well, you know what? We'll have to make up for it. I'm coming to Chicago between basketball and baseball season in high school, so we'll have to get together sometime when I'm in Chicago. I'm coming for a week.
With that. So. Yeah, maybe the 3 of us, we all go out and commiserate and hang out and talk about fun stuff.
Yeah,
and instead of on radio, I can make a jackass out of myself in public.
Hey, man, don't sell me short on that. I can do that very well, too. Trust me, bro.
well, thanks again. Again, that's the Cubs pre- and post-game host, Mark Grote of WSCR 670 The Score, the new station now, the new home for the Chicago Cubs. You can find him at Mark Grote Sports on the Twitter bot and at the Cubs convention next weekend. So get down with that. Check that out. And when we come back here, we're going to talk a little bit of football. If you want to give us a call, tell us what team you think is going to make it through here. And if you're just kind of pissed off at the whole thing with Jerry Reese and Tom Coughlin, that kind of makes me salty. So give us a call about it, 585-633-7487. Otherwise, tweet us at LN Sports Radio. And you're listening to the Johnnie Bobbo Show on Late Night Sports Radio and your Spreaker app.
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Sports Radio on your Spreaker app. If you get bored or if you want to hear it again, you can check it out on iTunes after the show is done here. It's available for download because Keith Grieve, our fantastic producer, is on top of his business all the time. Are you not?
Kinda.
No, you're pretty much on it, I would have to say. You know what I mean? Especially with all of the damn work that you put into 87sportsfans.com, and you are the man that runs that whole thing. I, unfortunately, am not as amazing as I'd like to think I am, but you had written something up there in regards to, the Cleveland Browns, okay? They hired MLB executive Paul DePodesta to kind of come through and I guess take a more analytic look at the team right now. I mean, it's happened before where there's been crossovers. It's never really ended up well. But I mean, honestly, like, what is your take? What do you think is going to happen here with bringing a guy like Paul DePodesta in there to run things for the Cleveland Browns that are just a constant disaster?
I have no idea what's going to happen. What do I think will happen? I think you like it's a 50-50 shot, and I think we have to remember that the Moneyball philosophy isn't exactly 100% sold in baseball. You know what I mean? There's certain parts of it that, warrant merit, but not everybody is given its gold stamp yet. Yes, you can build a winner because nobody that's followed that philosophy has really won anything yet. I mean, right. The Mets, to my knowledge, are the first team to use it to actually get to the World Series. Maybe the Royals.
Yeah,
the Royals. I think
they were smart about what they did. They literally built that team around their stadium, which is super intelligent. What was your point, Bob?
Well, and I think the Giants, to a certain extent, I think really, I mean, yeah, okay, it's not 100% numbers.
Giants have
you look at the A's. Yes, it's 100% numbers, but you look, I would say the teams that are successful right now are in the last 5 years. I mean, look at the Cardinals. I mean, yes, they have the money to spend, but they also, they do the numbers game too, as far as, not to the nth degree, but they factor numbers in, and everybody uses numbers to a certain extent. It's just a matter of what numbers you're using. Right. And I feel like the Cardinals, the Giants and the Royals more so build their teams to their ballpark. And the Giants are just fortunate to have a Buster Posey and Madison Bumgarner. And then they basically build around them, get a bunch of veterans that fit the mold for that ballpark. And it works. Same thing with the Royals. But you look at football, I don't know how the analytics game really works. Kind of, basketball, it's slowly creeping in. I don't know how it works in football, what the analytics game is there.
Yeah, but okay. Yeah, I guess here's the thing. So what do they do with the quarterback situation now? You got Johnny Manziel out here wearing apparently a blonde wig and a mustache and sunglasses, hanging out in Vegas. Dude was diagnosed with a concussion. All this is happening. I mean, what are they going to do with that whole situation? I mean, it's got to be one of his first orders of business is figuring out who the hell is your quarterback, right?
Oh, yeah.
Who the hell is this question for?
Anybody, take it.
Considering that they haven't...
I would say, I mean, Keith, correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously Johnny Manziel is probably definitely done in Cleveland.
Yeah. You would think.
At quarterback, if you're the Browns, I don't know. I'd probably just run the Wildcat every time and hope for the best, because that's probably your best option considering what they've drafted in recent years at quarterback and what they've signed at quarterback. So I would just run Wildcat every single play. Maybe that's in the analytics game.
All I'm going to say is the following names: Tim Couch, Charlie Fry, Colt McCoy, Brandon Whedon, Johnny Manziel. And don't forget, I believe they drafted.
Kelly Holcomb's on that list too.
They're bad.
We would need a full 2-hour show for you to go into the last 15 starters.
Right. And the point.
Jake Delhomme started a game for him a couple years ago.
Yeah, they can match up with the Bears in that front.
Yeah, well, we're not going there today. My point. The point of the article on 87sportsfans.com was that what could it hurt at this point for the Browns? Because they've tried everything else the old way, and they keep coming up with blanks. Now, part of their problem is that they need to stick with a coach for longer than 3 or 4 seasons.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's whether or not you're seeing the immediate returns or not. You got to give somebody a long. We don't have that kind of attention span. You look at what just happened in Tampa Bay with Lovie Smith. Whether or not you thought you were really happy with the product, this is your guy. He's only 2 seasons in. He's had Josh McCown and a rookie Jameis Winston as his 2 quarterbacks. What are you really holding this cat accountable for? Sure, the defense hasn't performed like you would expect, but he didn't walk into a Tampa 2 personnel.
Yeah.
So to fire him after 2 years is just ludicrous.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And, you talk about how quick that was. What about the whole Tom Coughlin thing? The guy's 69 years old. He's been, with the Giants for so damn long, and finally stepped down. And it kind of knew it was coming. I thought his resignation speech was fantastic. I mean, you saw Eli show more emotion than you've ever seen that robot give. I thought it was pretty well put. But then, he goes by and just blows right past John Mara, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just blows right past the CEO. Doesn't even bother shaking his hand, nothing like that. This is, see, I'm out. What is that all about?
Well, it was not him resigning. It was him basically told, hey,
he quit.
Save some space and resign.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
that's what it was.
In that position, that's like if Keith told you, "Hey, John, you suck at this, and I want you to just tell everybody at the end of the show, hey, we're not going to have a show next week or in the next 15 weeks." You'd be kind of pissed off. You might brush past Keith a little quickly.
This is the order it always goes when a team is together for a decent amount of time in today's sports world. And they taste some success, and then invariably the success goes away. The coach always gets hacked first, and then they realize, oh, well, the GM was crap too. He's fired too.
Right.
Reese doesn't get enough credit for how crappy he's been over the last few years.
Exactly. And how many years has he had to rebuild that secondary? How many years has he had to try to find a running, some kind of talent to generate some kind of a running game? It hasn't happened. He just keeps firing up these retreads. Rashad Jennings, Shane Vereen this year, it was more of a receiving back than a running back, but
they tried to make him a running back.
Yeah,
I mean, even with Jerry Reese, he went through and was and basically insinuated there were games that they could have won if it had not been for apparently implying it was Tom Coughlin.
This year they could have gone like 11-5 with how many games they blew down the stretch.
Right,
but. As far as, you talk about smoke and mirrors with what they've done, what Tom Coughlin did. 2 Super Bowls with 2 significantly flawed rosters. You look at what Spagnuolo did with that first Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
They hardly had a line, their linebacking core was fine with Antonio Pierce, but their secondary was virtually non-existent. And they pretty much just pressured the hell out of every team. They just went for broke on every play with that front, 6 or 7 that they had that was decent. And he was able to mix in Tuck, Umanura, Strahan. They had a good, their front 4 was incredible. And then that made up, it's kind of like, looking at Nebraska football, what Bo Pelini did in his first couple of years with, he didn't have a linebacker being core, but, he did kind of smoke and mirrors with that defense. They didn't have a secondary really either. But Spagnuolo covered up problems, and then Perry Fewell covered up problems in the second Super Bowl run with their defense, which, again, Corey Webster, I mean, he is not a good corner or not a good defensive back. And I mean, you look at, their defense over those two Super Bowls, it was just good enough, and Eli made, played out of his mind during those playoff runs where he made the right plays when the right plays needed to be made, and that's something he hasn't really done over the course of his career, other than those Super Bowl runs, is when, he kind of locked down, and the defense was smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's kind of shift it to the playoff situation here now. I mean, I think it's going to be tough. A lot of people are pretty high on the Vikings. You know what I mean? That's one of those teams where, the Seahawks, typically they've been known as being that team that is so great at home. You know what I mean? But this season, they've been pretty good on the road. You know what I mean? And you look at what what the Vikings were able to do this entire season, at least in terms of, it looks like Teddy Bridgewater's kind of got his thing figured out. Where do you guys see this going? Because the Vikings seem to be an underdog for quite a few teams or for quite a few people. They're taking them as the pick. How do you think that's going to pan out?
Not well. I don't think they're going to win.
No?
Against the Seahawks. No, I don't think they're going to get their doors blown off, but I don't see them beating the Seahawks. When Adrian, it's not really a good recipe when Adrian Peterson starts spouting off. And by the way, with Adrian Peterson, why the hell was there a story about his father, him talking about fatherhood in Sports Illustrated? Are you kidding me? That's like,
I feel like we should save this. No, let's tease that. You save it up.
All right, save it for Bobbo's buffet. All right, because what I was about to say might have gotten me in a little bit of trouble. But him talking about fatherhood is another joke. But him also calling Marshawn Lynch the second best running back in the NFL. Maybe factual, maybe true, whatever. But I don't feel like that's in the best interest of the Vikings for him to be spouting off at the mouth and having diarrhea of the mouth going into this game. And I think Russell Wilson's playing out of his mind. However, it's going to be a -1 with a -20 wind chill. I think the Vikings win this game, or the Vikings lose this game. It's not going to be big, but they're going to lose.
Yeah. See, and I'm kind of with you. At least in terms of, look at Seattle. Like I said, they won 5 in a row on the road so far to this point. And the Vikings, if they're going to be able to pressure Russell Wilson and go through there and kind of take the the blueprint that the Rams gave them, they do have a chance. But their defense is really going to have to step it up. And I guess I kind of flipped the page here, and you look at what's going on with Pittsburgh now. The Steelers going up against the Bengals in Cincinnati. How do you think that's going to work out? Andy Dalton, he hasn't been around. He ended up breaking his hand and ruined my fantasy season. I was totally going to win. I'm telling you, I had the best fantasy football team. I really don't care all that much, but I care enough. And
we couldn't go one show without talking about fantasy.
No, I couldn't. We're talking football, and it has really, really, really made me almost as angry as it did in the other league that I was in a championship, the one with Keith Areno here and Jim Sarantias. Yeah, dude, I ended up trying to swap a guy out at the last minute, and somehow my fat finger apparently took my starting quarterback out of the lineup, and Matt Ryan, and it's totally just ruined it. I think I lost by 10 points. I'm like, man, if I just had a quarterback that my fat thumb take out of the lineup, I would have been fine. But what's going on with this matchup?
That is the most pathetic fantasy football story I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah, that was worse.
Sad. Makes me angry.
That was worse than listening to the nanny talk and scratch her fingernails on a chalkboard at the same time.
Slow it down, buddy. It wasn't that.
Okay, but no, with this matchup, it was Bengals and Steelers.
Steelers, man. The Steelers at this point, they sneaked into the playoffs. It seems like they have talent.
I
got the big stage experience.
I don't like it, but I feel like we're kind of heading towards like a Seahawks-Steelers Super Bowl again, where, they're both the teams that nobody wants to face right now.
Yeah.
And the Steelers are kind of getting that luck. If A.J. McCarron starts, either way, a banged-up Andy Dalton or A.J. McCarron, I feel like the Steelers are going to get lucky again against the Bengals, where it's, when they had a healthy Carson Palmer, I think they beat the Steelers that year. But Carson Palmer blows out his knee, Steelers win and go to the Super Bowl. I kind of feel like the Steelers are in that position this year again, where they're gonna make it somehow, some way, just because the AFC is pretty banged up and not very good. So I think we're heading that direction towards the Steelers Seahawks Super
I'm with
Bowl.
you, man. Well,
it's unfortunate because I hate both teams and I hate both fan bases, but that's what we're heading towards.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that all pans out this weekend. But really, what it comes down to is we need to go to a break. But most importantly, this is Cody's segment. And last season, we had a different name for it. We're giving it a reboot. If you don't remember since our last show, okay, you don't know the name of it. So we're going to reboot it when we come back here. But we're going to ask him how long he thinks this thing is going to go with Guns N' Roses right now. They already blew off the Jimmy Kimmel show. Their headline Coachella.
That was just Axl. That was not the whole group.
Well, that's their guy, and if Axl isn't there, they are not Guns N' Roses, and we all know that. So if you care about that, give us a call 585-633-7487. Otherwise, send us a tweet at LN Sports Radio. And when we come back here on the Johnnie Bobbo Show on Late Night Sports Radio, Spreaker apps, we're going to talk to our guy, Cody Van Cura.
See, I want you till so far away. I know it can't be more. love. Can't walk away from the things you say, the things you say, yeah, the price you pay for love. No, no, no. Can't walk away from the things you say, the things you say, yeah, the price you pay for love. Can't walk away from the things you say, the things you say, yeah, the price you pay for love.
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
This weekend, the Packers, we'll see if they can take care of it. No, they got a week off, don't they? Or do they play? No, they do. They play Sunday night.
They're playing the Savages.
Yeah. They're playing the last game.
It's going to lead into my apology at the end of the show.
Yeah, we'll eventually get to that whole mammer jammer. But, taking care of business. That's what our guy Cody Vancura does. You can find him, Francois Vancura, on Facebook. But he's our music guy. And this used to be the segment that we would call Cody's Cue, because it was his music cue that he would play. He always brings us great music. But in the new year here, we are.
I wouldn't say always, but he was on fire at the end of the year.
He was on fire at the end of the year, and we're bringing him in with his new retitled segment called Celebratory 40s. And let me tell you something, Cody. How did that all start? You are our entertainment warlock. You are the emo prince of the Midwest. How's your new year going, and how the hell did we come up with a name like Celebratory 40s?
Hey, Happy New Year's, everyone, especially you, Bob. My New Year's been
New Year, not New
Well, for a few years, anytime there's a big celebration, you'd have to crack open the Cobra. So it's just a big thing with a bunch of people. We would drink celebratory 40s.
That's how it works, huh? But I feel like what we do with Celebratory 40s, we celebrate music and how fantastic it is, and how you can know nothing about a band from another region because they're so, obscure and so little known just because of the fact that they're coming from a small town, man. There's a lot of stuff out there, and we try to bring these bands to light. But what you're doing with this segment here today, you're going to do a little album review. There's a lot of big albums out here in 2016, and tell us a little bit about the band here. It's the Hinds, right? They're a Spanish indie rock band, technically from Madrid.
Yeah, last year we saw a lot of new, all-girl indie pop groups come up, like Chastity Belt and Diet Sig. And it's continuing now into the new year with Hinds, who, like you said, is from Spain. But new album is coming out tomorrow. So it's already streaming on NPR. It's going to be on Spotify tonight at midnight, I heard. And, this was their first full-length release. Everything else was just demos and EPs. But it's really lush indie pop. A lot of the songs are really heart-wrenching about heartbreak and, not necessarily about boys, but, just about, love and loss. And, it has a really good garage pop sound to it. So I'm really excited to see if they come to the U.S. for a tour.
Oh, for sure. And I think actually kind of one of the funnier things about their name before we even get into them is they used to be called the Deers. Okay, they were the Deers, but apparently there were some threats of legal action with a similarly known band in 2014. So they ended up changing their name to the Hinds. And Hinds is a female deer. So that's a new band,
right.
A new name of the band here. And they got this new album coming out tomorrow. And let's hear a little bit of it. Let's say 30, 45 seconds if we got anything there, Keith?
For you, the world. There you go.
What a gentleman.
I don't even ask this much.
From the latest newscasts to the newest podcasts.
You got to hear the
NPR
commercial
handles
from
local,
NPR
national,
first.
and
NPR, no, they're good though. NPR is good stuff. That public
Download the
radio.
NPR One app, the new way to
Yeah, but
experience public radio.
NPR blows.
Yeah.
And there's Bob.
That's the Hines. Okay, you should check them out. They got a new album coming out, like I said, tomorrow. What's the name of the album, Cody?
Leave Me Alone.
Leave Me Alone. Damn it. There needs to be a damn it at the end of that in like parentheses or something. But no, I couldn't think of it. There's not many like chick bands out there, you know. And one of the bands that I really enjoyed that was an all girl band. And they actually recently got back together. They split up for a while. Carrie Brownstein, who was a member of Sleater Kinney. She was doing Portlandia for a while, still is, doing some of those old Navy commercials. I love her. She's hilarious. But Sleater Kinney was always one of those chick bands that I was always down with. And what do you hear any relation between the two of them at all, Cody?
I feel Hines is a little bit more poppy compared to Sleater Kinney, but I can see the comparisons.
Yeah.
Okay. Cody, how about this comparison?
Uh-oh.
I was thinking, okay, you know, I don't know if this is their name, but I think their name's the Cardigans. Okay, the music doesn't sound the same, but her voice sounds like the lead singer of the
No, Bob, I could definitely see that. Yeah.
That's what she sounds like. Like, I'm not saying that the whole band, like the music sounds like that, but
right,
voice,
the voices
got a
are
little
very similar.
Okay, so I mean, how long have you been into them, Cody? Have you been into them for a while? I mean,
past few months, they you go on Spotify, and I was listening to Diet Pig, and suggested artists came up, and so I've been listening to them for the past couple.
And what band was that popped up first? What was the band that popped up that you eventually got steered in their direction?
Oh, it was Diet Pig, which is another fantastic band.
Okay. So how about now Coachella? Coachella's happening. Apparently Guns N' Roses, they're going to headline a particular night.
They're not on the lineup yet, though. That's what I'm really concerned about. Like, I got excited.
Yeah, so are they. The guy already canceled Jimmy Kimmel.
Right.
Decided not to show up. Are they even going to – is this ever going to happen?
Yeah, I highly doubt that anything's ever going to come from this. The egos are way too big. They're going to demand way too much money. And they're not going to be the same band that they were in the 80s. They're never going to regain the magic. And they could try so hard and build this huge publicity for it. But even if it does, people are going to be disappointed.
Well, has anybody seen Axl Rose? I mean, he looks like Bob Sullivan right now.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
Well, you got the cornrows. The cornrows are always a good look on a fat old white guy. Well, you're still young, right?
Yeah, I'm not. You're older than me.
Yeah, a little bit.
You're older than me by like at least 5 years.
That's okay. So let me ask you, Cody, where are we going with this, man? Coachella. What do you think about that lineup?
I thought it was a really weird lineup. I would say this was probably the most diverse it's ever been.
I mean, the Arcs are playing. That's a Dan Auerbach thing. The Damned are playing there. That's a pretty good old goth rock band.
The Vandals are playing, my favorite punk band from when I was 12. They haven't even toured in like 10 years.
Yeah, is there anybody like knowing all the bands that is there any band like Autolux or anything like that is maybe kind of making you want to go to the Coachella this season or what?
Honestly, with all the bands, like none of them is really drawing me in to drive so far and pay so much money. A lot of the bands I want to see, Death Grips, they just played here over the summer. Death Heaven's coming back soon. Like a lot of these big money draws are going on tours or have just passed through.
Yeah, I mean, what are some of these tours that are coming out here in 2016? I know you're probably pretty psyched about Anthrax. They're doing their thing. Lamb of God, they're coming back out. They're doing a little tour here. Like I said,
with Death Heaven, which I was really shocked to see them put Death Heaven on the bill because that is completely different metal than either of Anthrax or Lamb of God.
And you've mentioned them. Didn't you say Death Heaven was one of your favorite shows that you saw of 2016?
Right. Yeah. Also, their album, I forgot to include that on my list. It's probably in my top 10 favorites of the year. New Bermuda. Bermuda. Yeah, they play like shoegazy black metal, so it's going to be a really weird crowd.
Yeah.
To see them with Anthrax and Lamb of God.
Well, how about Strange Crowds? Talking about them, Adele. She is coming to Chicago. I mean, what happens in an Adele show? I'm telling you, everybody's text their ex. That's all they do. Everybody texts her.
This is one of her first tours. She has massive stage fright. This is why it's so big.
Yeah, you really care about Adele coming to Chicago right now? I find it hard to believe.
I don't. I'm just saying it's important because of how little she has toured in the past.
Yeah. She can't. Her body weight can't handle it.
Whoa, dude! Why gotta be that guy, Bob? That's something that we're talking about. We're talking about Bobbo's apologies at the end of the show. I feel like that needs to be one of them.
What? Throwing Adele a fat chick?
Yeah, man. I don't like picking on people for being overweight, dude. I used to be that guy. I'm 90 pounds lighter than I used to be a decade.
Well, John, you're not a chick, so it's okay.
Oh, Bob, you're so awful, dude. So, let me ask you, Cody.
Oh, that's fat chicks.
I'm gonna take Bob out of the garbage can here. So, what other albums are you looking forward to coming out here in the new year? Because I mean, it sounds like Radiohead. They might have something new coming up here. What else you got?
I haven't even really looked that much at what's coming out yet. I'm taking it week by week now. I'm seeing everything that's released. I'm going to pick out a new album every week to listen to. Because you start, anticipating albums, and then you're let down. If I see an album by someone who I like is coming out, I'll listen to it, but I'm not going to put any more anticipation to get let down like I have in 2015.
Yeah, well, I mean, David Bowie, he's got a new album coming out, same thing with Animal Collective, you know what I mean? And how about this band, too? I don't know if you've heard of them yet, the 1975.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of them, but...
it's definitely a different sound, you know what I mean, where it's... I don't know. How would you describe it?
I guess it's like indie rock. I know like a bunch of people were saying the lyrics were very emotional and putting them under the emo label, but they're definitely not. Like, they're a fine band. They're just kind of cookie cutter generic to me.
Yeah. Well, how about Blink 182? They're coming out with a new album. They still don't have a name for the album. They still don't have a release date, but it was a weird split there with Tom DeLonge and with Travis Barker, Mark Hoppus, and then Matt Skiba came on from Alkaline Trio.
Exactly, that's what's going to be exciting about that, to see if it's going to have any Alkaline Matt Skiba influence on it, if they'll mature a little bit from not saying that their previous couple albums they haven't matured, but they still really haven't hit their stride in making music that's not geared towards middle schoolers.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Compared to Alkaline Trio, whose music is geared towards high schoolers.
Yeah, okay. And so what is this? What you sent me something crazy. What, Movie Street Preachers? What the hell is that, dude?
That sounds super exciting. They're playing their first album all the way through.
It's a band.
And that's enough. What?
I said, oh, it's a band.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah, no, they're an old English band. They really haven't toured or even done that much stuff in years, and yeah, it's just cool that they're getting back to their roots and doing their first album. I know that's a big thing. A bunch of bands are doing full album tours lately.
All right, well that's cool, man. I mean that's kind of been a popular thing, at least in terms of a lot of festivals, a lot of bands that at least I'm familiar with, a lot of the punk rock stuff, the punk pop rock, whatever you want to call it.
Right, yeah, we mentioned a few weeks ago Less Than Jake's doing Losing Streak, and
right.
I'll rock you in March at Bottom Lounge 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like it's a good turnout, you know what I mean? Because it's finally, people get to reminisce a little bit and listen to some of the old jams and stuff like that. So I think it's a pretty good idea, and kind of on that same note, how about this whole deal, man? Apparently Amazon had sold more turntables this year than ever before. And it's coming up this Christmas, yes. Turntables are a hot item on Amazon this past Christmas. Why? What do you think that is? I heard some people complain, oh yeah, it's just indie kids, blah 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 blah, and knocking it. But I feel like records might be making a comeback, dude. I mean, if bookstores can make a comeback, I'm pretty sure records can make a comeback.
Whoa! Bookstores are not making a comeback, are they?
Some are, yes. Books.
Some are, okay, but
no, the actual book sales are on the rise right now, a significant rise. After having significantly dropped off the face of the earth. You know what I mean?
Good, because books suck.
Well, Tony La Russa wanted to open a bookstore, and everybody was like, dude, what the hell are you thinking, Tony? Why? You don't need a bookstore. It's a horrible idea. And like I said, they're on their way back up, man. People like books, apparently. People like paper.
I don't. Yeah, I think for the past 15 years, vinyl has been making a huge comeback.
I think so, too. I mean, do you have any vinyls? I mean, are you a big record guy?
Oh, dude, absolutely.
What's your favorite record? What is the prized glory? What is a jewel of your record collection?
Man, you guys are gonna hate. You guys are gonna hate me, but it's that Taylor Swift 1989 double LP I got last year.
Well, I'm not gonna hate you for that. That's on. She made a vinyl out of that shit.
Yeah, and it's stupid. It's a double LP, so it's 3 songs on each side.
Okay, well that's awesome because that's a great album. I mean, you got 5 smash hit singles on that. How could you not love Taylor?
I think Bob just likes the fact that the album artwork is much larger than it is when he buys the album. Like the CD, you know what I mean? That's all right. So, Cody, we're gonna share your thing, your celebratory 40s. What's the whole background though? You say you have is there a blog out there somewhere?
There's a blog. It's under construction right now. I'm in the process of cleaning it up. So by next week, it'll be ready to launch.
That is awesome, dude. And have you seen the pictures, Bobbo? Yet of the celebratory 40s page on Facebook?
I have not. No.
Oh, you need to see it. I turned Cody into a snake. It's straight up like a King Cobra label, but it's Cody's face. It's hilarious.
King Cobra is it smells like rubber cement, but it doesn't taste that bad. So
yeah,
no, it's my favorite 40.
You know, I was always a Colt 45 Old English type of guy.
Now that Old English is really good, but it's hard to find in the Willow Springs area.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be kind of in urban environments to find it.
Right.
Well,
which I tend to slum it from time to time, so I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, Cody likes slumming it, and that's what celebratory 40s is about.
All right, thanks.
Well, yeah. All right. Thanks a ton, Cody. You have a fantastic evening, sir.
Hey, you guys too. Once again, Happy New Year's to all of you.
All of us, yes. Wow. I'm glad I talked
to you. All right, you guys have a good night.
You got it. Thank you. See you, brother, man. Yeah, no, that was the awful ending there. But no, that was actually really good, at least in terms of, I'm telling you, man, you need to see that picture with him and with the snake tongue.
Well, if it's a picture of a King Cobra 40, I will definitely take a look at it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so now, Bobbo, we got to start wrapping this thing up here, I think, relatively shortly. Let me ask you this. Adrian Peterson, time for your buffet, bro. What is your deal? I mean, obviously, the whole, AP situation where, that kind of beat a little bit.
What? Adrian Peterson talking about being a father is like, what's her name? God, what's that fat lady? The one who does the cooking. Who does the cooking?
The one
the racist.
The one that got hit in the head with a turkey?
No, the racist lady who does cooking.
Yeah, she got hit with a turkey.
Keith, who am I thinking
Paula
of?
Dean.
Paula
Dean. Adrian Peterson talking about fatherhood is like Paula Dean talking to people about not using the N-word. Like, that's how hypocritical that situation is. I don't understand why is it his fault that they were writing the story? No, but SI should have done a better job of.
I mean, there's got to be somebody there that thinks it out, that says, you know what, that's an awful, awful, awful idea to interview Adrian Peterson about being a father after all that stuff. I mean, the guy wasn't allowed to play football because of this. It was so egregious. You know what I mean? Now you're gonna do a report about him being a father. I mean, maybe I'm missing some of the context here. What was it more so? Talking about what he's done to change the way that he's been a horrible father?
No, not really. No, it's pretty much
like a brag.
What fatherhood means to him and stuff like that. Yeah. It's like
I don't even want to read that.
Okay, but wrong. Okay, whether you're from the South or not, what he did was wrong. Like you can't excuse those pictures of his child. Like, I mean, he probably should have done some time in prison for what he did.
He beat his son's scrotum until it was bleeding. Yeah. Okay, with a tree branch.
Yeah.
Okay, and that tree branch was the same tree branch that he forced his son that he beat with, forced him to go out and pick out that branch and then stuff the leaves off that branch into his mouth, and then beat his son's back on it until he was bloody. That's hideous. I can't even fathom even having the heart or the conscience to be able to go through something like that and actually do that.
I'm not a parent, and I don't claim to know the first thing about parenting, but I can tell you one thing. No matter, obviously being way too lax is probably not the best call, but also just brutally beating your child can't be good either.
Well, I mean,
I'm just spitballing here. I'm just, I could be wrong, but
no. But here's my thing. You know what I mean? Because I'm technically, I'm a pseudo dad. You know what I mean? Where I have a 13-year-old and a 5-year-old, soon to be 6. Where they're not technically, biologically my children, but I wish I was around them more than I was. You know what I mean? Because I don't live with them. But I try to make sure that I make a difference, you know what I mean, in their lives. You know what I'm saying? Where at least I'm around enough, and I try to teach them certain things. And there's times where you want to discipline them, but obviously having the patience is part of it. But when it comes down to it, I think about what made me, you know what I mean, into who I am, where I have manners, I have respect. I don't feel entitled to anything. So I'm constantly going to be going to that. You know what I mean? Whenever I'm doing any sort of parenting, or just I try to be that positive figure, period, to who and whomever I'm around. But when it comes down to it, you think about it, and it sounds awful coming out my mouth, but kids do need to fear a little bit of something. Without any fear, I feel like that respect level isn't there. And I'm not saying beat the hell out of your kid, but every once in a while, kids get out of control, and it's a little slap upside the head, hey, realize what you're doing isn't right. You know what I mean?
Obviously, yeah, that I can get on board with that. I can't
Yeah, because I'm not an advocate of hit, but
I mean, it's kind of like the same thing with. I mean, if you're like coaching, like I look at there's stuff that like Bobby Knight did where I kind of laugh at it now.
It needs to be
okay, that's kind of like when he hits a hits a player or hits or like that Mike Rice who was coaching at Rutgers where he threw the basketball at one of his players. Or,
yeah.
McCarthy
did a really
stuff like that where it's like, okay, that's kind of funny. Like you think like, okay, that's kind of funny right now. But then, like when you actually get into the moment, it's like, okay, how could you do that to him?
Oh yeah.
I couldn't do and then it's kind of the same thing with. I mean, Keith's obviously a father. You're a father. You're a pseudo father, but I'm not a father, and probably a good thing. But I look at that and it's like, I could never do something like that to another.
Oh, absolutely not.
Even being a lone child, like it's just.
I mean,
the fact that Adrian Peterson, what he did was absolutely atrocious. What Greg Hardy did was absolutely atrocious. There's really neither one of them should be in the NFL. I mean, there's a lot of players that are currently in the NFL that shouldn't be in the NFL. They shouldn't have a job that should be in prison.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It gets into the whole character conversation, you know what I mean, when you're picking, who you're going to put in the Hall of Fame. But I mean, Keith, like Bob said, like as a father, you know what I mean? I'm not saying, like I said, I mentioned my example is, slap upside the head real quick. I made it like stupid, like, jokingly. But I'm saying, like, there does need to be some kind of punishment or something, to kind of help kids, respect what they have. You know what I mean? And know the fact that you got to work for things. You got to set that example.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But there's ways to do it without knocking the crap out of them.
Well, no kidding. Yeah.
I'm just saying. I mean, like Bob said, it's not that. It was like, he drew blood in a pretty sensitive part of the body.
Would there be a?
I mean, even bruises. I'm not.
Fatherhood with one of the Duggar father at this point. Would there be a magazine article about the Duggar father? About what it's like to be a father and whatnot. No. And, what he did was, on a different level, horrible. Like Adrian Peterson. But you look at, there just shouldn't be an article talking about what it's like being a father. It's like, well, obviously you're a terrible human being for beating the shit out of your child.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's how the show ends. We're gonna change it up next time around. Our guy Bob, this is his buffet, but apparently, Bob, sometimes things happen, and you might need to apologize for something. So I think we might work it out. That seems like a good idea because your apologies always go over really well. I think. I mean, the one you had for Brian Windhorst and the one you had for Cody. I mean, those were touching moments.
Okay, well, the Cody one was legit from the bottom of my heart. Sorry.
The other one was, though, too.
Brian Windhorst thing was it was definitely half-assed, and that was actually, you should have been the one making the apology on my behalf for what I said about Brian Windhorst.
Oh, I'm just letting you run with it. That's fine. that was my fault. I apologize quickly. I just didn't need to drag it out the way you did, man. It was very heartfelt.
Yeah, with the Incredible Hulk music playing in the background.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You need that, but. What we need to do is we need to wrap this bad boy up. This is the Johnnie Bobbo Show on Late Night Sports Radio. You can download us on Spreaker. You can also download the show right after I'm finished with this sentence here on iTunes. Check it out. We had Charles Hayes on. Fantastic stuff. Check him out at Ball to Ear on Twitter. Also, the Big League Baseball Academy. Check out that website. If you're in Texas, that's a guy you want to hit up. He's actually going to teach your kids at least a little bit of something about the game. Our guy Mark Grote at Mark Grote Sports on Twitter, Chicago Cubs pre- and post-game show host on WSCR 670 The Score, the new home of the Chicago Cubs for 2016. And then our guy Cody Vancura at Francois Vancura on Facebook. Also check out his Facebook page, Celebratory 40s. Our guy Keith Grieve at 87sportsfans.com, at 87sportsfans on Twitter. Bob Sullivan at The Bob Sullivan Show on Twitter. NoCosBias.com. And I'm Malores, John Malores. And you can check me out on Twitter at MALIORIS. And I'll be writing things, I promise. And Well, sooner or later, those promises are going to run up. But we got to thank everybody. Thank all of our guests. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Check us out, latenightsportsradio.com. Thanks for calling, texting, tweeting, and like that Johnnie Bobbo Show page on Facebook. But more importantly, you better be good.